Hello everybody, this is McDole, and welcome to the Talking Time Let's Play for Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn. Today we are doing the first 24-man raid, the Labyrinth of the Ancients. And I'm here with some people to help me talk about this because I didn't play this one. This is normal content. So we have a couple of other people who play in the Talking Time Free Company. We have Juno.
Hello.
And Mighty Blue, who you may remember from the Binding Coil video. So anyway, so here we are. The 24-man raids are pretty much just like a bigger regular dungeon. Honestly, it's just with more people, more hit points to chew through on bosses, and
some more complicated mechanics. Definitely.
Yeah. So please ignore me hiding some Beast Tribe quests on my quest log just to remove some clutter on the screen there.
Yeah, these raids tend to have a lot of mechanics that you could really only do with like 24 people. You'd have 3 ads at once you need to keep separate, but you have one party for each ad or something like that. Mm-hmm. You have one group does one job, another party does this other job during the fight and everything.
Yeah, and you're going to see some of that where it's not really strictly defined in these first 3 raids in the series, and I'll get into that when we get to some of the other to some of the other the other Alliance raids in A Realm Reborn. But for the most part, these are just kind of free for all in terms of the way mechanics work out. And it's it can be tricky if you're not careful.
The reaction to this is what basically completely changed how they designed all Dungeons and Alliance raids going forwards, because there was an awful lot of griefing and trolling, especially with the second, I guess, trash corridor leading to the second boss.
Yeah, and we'll see that in a bit.
Yeah.
For the time being, this is just basically 3 different waves of trash to kill.
Yeah, trash.
So there's not really much to comment on. So I guess in lieu of that, you're about to say something, Juno?
Just there are pools there that will damage you if you stand in them, but at this point, it's not really that much meaningful damage. Mm-hmm. Healers could heal through it anyway, but yeah, just stay out of the pools too. But they're pretty easy.
So story reasons for a lot of this is basically it's a love letter to Final Fantasy III, the original Final Fantasy III. If you're familiar with if you haven't had a chance to check it out, I highly recommend you do. The drama comedy kind of television series from Japan. It's called Final Fantasy XIV: Dad of Light. Has a lot of nods to Final Fantasy III, which this raid series is based off of. And so I guess the creator who wrote the original blog that Dad of Light is based on was a big fan of Final Fantasy III, as well as Naoki Yoshida himself. So that's kind of why this first series of raids is based on that particular game of the series.
So the way the Bone Dragon here works is that you have to actually kill him 3 times. And the first 2 times you kill him, these skeletons will try to jump into him. And if the skeletons get there, they do raid-wide damage. Mm-hmm. Now, right now, you can just sort of heal through that damage. You can see, all that damage going up. You can just kind of endure it right now. But at the time, back then, what you had to do is individual players had to sort of aggro those ads away from the dragon, so that when the dragon died and the skeletons tried to get to the dragon, you would kill the skeleton before they got there. Mm-hmm. To at least reduce, the damage you get. But now everyone just rushes through it.
The damage itself, whenever the skeletons contact the dragon, it is fixed, but it is still easily. People can still heal through it. It's still a flat 1,000 damage. So I know I said that. I know I told you guys at the outset that egregious, horrible things aren't happening, but I don't remember this part of the footage. So awesome.
Well,
Yeah,
this happens even in normal runs.
yeah, this was even more so back in the day. The thing with the skeleton ads is that AoE burst they do is a special type of damage that ignores all mitigation, including shields. So whatever HP you have is what you've got to deal with in the mechanic, which, yeah, led to a lot of people not being particularly observant with what they were doing with the ads, and that resulted in more than a few wipes at launch.
Mhm.
This was a festival of pain at launch, and people tried to avoid it as best as possible because
And-
there wasn't any, duty roulettes or anything back in the day. You basically just ran it for level I-80 gear, which at 2.1 was handy, but not really necessary because the endgame scene hadn't really fully developed yet, like
Yeah.
the way it is now.
They didn't even have like the alliance roulette like they do until I think it wasn't until sometime until during
It was
Heavensward.
somewhere in Stormblood that they had introduced the Alliance Raid.
Stormblood. Okay, yeah. So, okay, now this is a very infamous part. What happens is there's three sort of tables here, three different areas, and you have to have 4 people on each of these colored pads in order to unlock the other group's kind of target. And so what would happen is that it would be very hard to get people to just stay on those pads. Nobody could do any damage.
And you see me running onto that pad, and me staying there until there's more people, and so when the color of the pad goes dim, so right now Alliance C, the alliance that I'm in right now, they I guess they don't have enough people. Okay, there now you see the guy just walked onto the thing, and now it's fully lit up, which means that I think it's Alliance A can hit it. So right now you see I'm meleeing the Atomos monster while there's some ads that are spawning, and the tanks are supposed to drag the ads back toward the pad so that the ranged people that are sitting there can kill it.
And one thing I should sort of mention here is that as you can see here, each alliance only has 1 tank, and that's how normally these 24-man raids work. You have 1 tank, 2 healers, and 5 DPS. However, when Labyrinth of the Ancients first came out, there were 2 tanks. You had 2 tanks, 2 healers, 4 DPS, which is typical of like your 8-man trials and 8-man raids.
Mm-hmm.
But back at launch, you had 2 tanks, and so I think it was when Shadowbringers actually came out, they changed it so that it's 1 tank per group.
I'm pretty sure it was Stormblood because
it was earlier than that. It was Heavensward for that technical change because they only really included mechanics for 2 tanks to handle theoretically for the first 2 of these alliance raids, and then World of Darkness was just 1 tank.
Yeah. Okay. So the way this boss works, the Thanatos, is that 2 only at a time. Only one of the groups can damage the boss. What happens is those magic pots you see, they put a sort of a debuff on one group that gives them a status effect, which it lowers their damage overall, but it makes it possible for them to damage Thanatos. The other 2 groups at this time cannot do any damage to Thanatos, and so they instead have to focus on defeating the ads to protect the other groups and also prevent the pots from being hurt. And this will cycle between groups. So I think it's like Group A can attack Thanatos first, then it will switch to only Group B, and repeat until the boss is dead. I mean, right now he dies pretty quickly, so you usually only need 1 group, but in the day it would typically cycle between the groups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very rare these days that you'll ever see Alliance C actually take a swing at Thanatos unless something is going horribly wrong.
Yeah.
And so the way that the Alliance raids work out is that there's trash pulls. There's actually 4 bosses in each of these dungeons, which is why I say it's kind of a super dungeon. Because there's more trash and an extra boss compared to a standard dungeon. So that was the second boss. So there's 2 more bosses after this, and we're kind of going on to the trash pull of this 3rd branch of the Labyrinth of the Ancients.
Yeah, it's sort of you see it more with the modern Alliance raids, but there's a lot of empty space and a lot of hang time where there's not mechanics immediately demanding attention. If you play, when we get to the modern Alliance raids, you'll see it'll be a constant string of things happening instead of just punching three separate things that have to be, just kept in one spot for, however long.
Yeah, so you kind of see this situation going on here with these Vasagos, who are all tethered to this invulnerable Alagon bomb in the center. So each alliance needs to keep these Vasagos pointed away from the bomb and kind of pulled apart from each other. Otherwise, I think they tether and make life
no, the three tethers are always there. It's if they're too close to each other or too close to the bomb, they'll get defense up.
Okay.
It's like a 90% defense up.
So periodically, while you're fighting these things, these napalms and bombs will spawn. The napalms will crawl toward the center bomb, and if they get close, they'll detonate and hurt everyone in the area. So you want to at least break off and kill those napalms before they get to the center.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's just kind of like the situation is like, oh, we're going to race the other two teams to see who can kill their Vasago first.
And there's actually a unique damage throttle built into this. If you can't push these three too fast, if one gets below the others, they'll get a same vulnerability up or vulnerability down that the tethers do, just to make sure that you're not killing one of them too early.
Oh, I didn't notice that. But as you can see, the bomb itself doesn't falls down if you look at it funny. So 24 people looking at it funny is a pretty easy and quick way to kill it.
Okay, so this next boss, there's a mechanic here that people just completely ignore now. You see those 4 towers at the edge? When those turn on, they cause electricity on the ground that causes damage. And back in the day, you need to have somebody manually turning those towers off to stop the damage. But now people just go through it because who cares? It's not much damage compared to what people have now.
So
and you see those green marks.
That Satsu Suisse has a comment marker over red, which means she's going to drop a rock in whatever space that she's standing in when she snapshots. So King Behemoth casts that ability, Ecliptic Meteor. You need to be hiding behind one of those meteors that Satsu Suisse dropped to get a to avoid the damage from the meteor. Otherwise, you die, and you can see a couple of people in the party died when that happened. And he's casting it again, and he's almost dead. I don't know if he gets the second meteor off, but you want to hide just in case he does.
Oh, just barely.
So unfortunately, I had to skip the cutscene here because everybody just goes.
Everybody rushes to the end.
Goes hard and balls to the wall on completing these things. So I don't actually get to show you the cutscene where you actually reveal the last boss of this area, Phlegathon, who is also known as Titan from Final Fantasy III. A.K.A. Acheron, I think they called him too.
Acheron.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's the same enemy model. They just renamed it for reasons you'll probably get to later.
Honestly, it never really made too much sense to me. I don't know why they changed it.
They didn't want to rename a later boss. They didn't want him to share names, so they renamed Acheron to Phlegathon.
Yeah, I remember there's like some kind of name confusion based on the original Final Fantasy III names that they just kind of wanted to avoid. So Phlegathon's main mechanic is his Ancient Flare attack, which he's going to walk back to the very dead center of the arena, which is that blue dot, and he's going to start casting Ancient Flare. Each of the parties has to stand on the pads that have that are off on the edge of the arena to create a barrier that will block the Ancient Flare. Otherwise, everybody dies.
Yeah, you need at least 5 people towards pad on each pad. If any of those 3 pads don't have 5 people on it, everyone wipes. It's an automatic wipe. Everyone dies.
Yeah, and
there we go.
You're still standing inside the barrier. They just drop.
You lost your 2 healers, but
yeah, the cast time is dependent on how much damage he takes in that same phase. So if modern gear, it goes real fast.
Yeah, so as you can see, Phlegethon's already at 30% and melting pretty quickly. I don't know if we actually push him through another Ancient Flare. Depends on... Basically, you can if you got a good enough DPS, you can push him through you can push him through with only one cycle of Ancient Flare, and sometimes he'll just kind of do other attacks other than Ancient Flare, and then that's cool. So he started casting Ancient Flare.
Nope, he's casting.
I think I just backflipped in the wrong direction there, so oopsie. And while this barrier is up, they also spawn Iron Giants and Grabby Arms, and the Grabby Arms will grab people and keep them from doing things, and you gotta knock them off the other people. There's a Grabby Arm right there in the floor. Yeah. And
they always grab. There's always one spawning right then. Grabs somebody nearby. But yeah, that's Labyrinth of the Ancients.
So very much kind of a not really toothless version of what
it wasn't toothless, and they nerfed it a lot back in the day. And
because it's very easy to grief, as you said, and screw up. There's a lot of like insta-fail mechanics, like that Ancient Flare. Like if enough people, don't do it, everyone wipes.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see when we get to Circus Tower just what the developers did to address that.
But that's a story for another time. Thank you guys for coming to talk to me about this, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah, sure.
Later.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.